at 4:30.
It is normal. Bumper to bumper.
Just opened. So it's been crazy.
Yeah. And DMV now is open with appointments and.
I'll ask you, Ann.
Oh, yes, we do. I think, let's see. I think everybody's here except for Rich. So, yeah, we do have a quorum. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Then I'd like to call our meeting to order. I want to thank everybody for participating remotely, including you, Chief. Thank you for what you're doing. And if we could have the roll call, Angie?
Yes, very good. Chair Lohman?
Here.
Vice Chair Foster.
Here.
Rich Miller is absent. Bob Silverfor.
Here.
Mike Smith.
Here.
Vance Stimler.
Here.
Megan Thornton.
Here.
Chris West.
Here.
And Laurie Zwingli.
Here.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. And we have Kim, Counselor Kim Young, and we have the chief. We have you, Angie, and we have John Carlson out there somewhere. We haven't heard from him yet.
He is there.
I'm here.
Okay. All righty. Thank you all. We'll have the approval of the minutes next, according to our agenda. And so I'm going to ask Bob if he has looked through the minutes to find anything that needs to be corrected, any addition.
No, actually, Ralph, I spent a minute and a half going over the minutes, and everything looks terrific. Since the last meeting was 3+ months ago, it was hard to remember everything that took place. But the minutes look good, and I move that we accept them as published.
Second.
All right. We have a motion to approve the minutes. Who was the second?
Second.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Okay. We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye, please.
I
Opposed, same sign. All right. So we have approval of our minutes from our meeting in February. Again, it was hard to believe it was that long ago that we met. So Angie, if you will give me a heads up when you're going to be in the office, it's just a quick matter for me to swing by and sign those. So,
Okay.
Okay. I'll just throw that to you.
Okay.
Next item of business are the board member announcements. And so I'll just open it up. Whoever wants to speak, let's go first with Diane.
I just wanted to say that, Chief, I did really enjoy the sharing of the letter that you provide to the officers upon hiring. It seemed like not only was that very transparent, reading your letter was great, and it also seems like it came with a lot of positive feedback. So if anybody hasn't seen that letter, it talks about the chief's expectations of the officers in representing the city and everybody in the community, and just really, really good. And it seemed like it came with a lot of really positive feedback.
Yeah, ditto.
Thank you.
Bob, how about you? Anything to add today?
I'm sorry, Ralph, did you call me?
Yep.
At the last meeting, I mentioned that Diane was a candidate for, let's see. It was some Chamber of Commerce title, a team mother or something like that, Diane. Anyway, the bottom line,
Yeah.
and the bottom line is that she won that award. So congratulations. And good for
Yay.
And
Very good.
shortly after that time, I maybe had asked for life to slow down a little bit. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that.
This is your fault?
Yeah, it's your fault. Okay. Congratulations, Diane. Okay, from all of us. Mike, anything to add?
I want to thank Angie for putting together the Traffic Safety Committee binders. That was a really nice job, and I appreciate that. Then I don't know whether this is the appropriate time or not, but I did have a question for the chief regarding the ongoing demonstrations in Portland and calls for defunding and all that kind of good stuff. Just wanted to kind of get his opinion on that stuff.
Well, can you, I guess I would seek a little more specificity, and I can obviously confirm what I would think most people believe is that I don't support defunding or disbanding police departments. The caveat to that is there have been instances where police departments have run into so much trouble and so much misconduct that sometimes you have to wipe the board clean and start over. Those are very, very specific incidents and need to be handled, in an appropriate way based on the circumstances. But a broad statement that because of certain incidents in different places, even repeated incidents in different places, it's my opinion that policing is far too important to just take a broad position to defund. I asked, so did you have anything more specific to that? Because I can add a little bit more, but I want to make sure I'm addressing your question.
You are, and by the way, I'm in 100% agreement with you, but I was just wondering, I mean, obviously a lot of that stuff that's going down has to impact your staff one way or another when they hear all these horror stories. So I appreciate all the work that you and your troops are doing.
Well, thank you. So just a bit more on defunding, depending on which definition and which theory you look at. One of the elements of defunding police is redirecting a portion of the resources from policing to other social services to deal with societal issues like homelessness, mental health, and so on. And what I have heard is that, we need to redirect those services because police officers shouldn't be addressing those. And specific to those claims, I would say, yeah, absolutely. American policing, specifically our policing, never asked to be the social service responders. We never asked to be the frontline mental health crisis providers. But that is what has been asked of us over the last several decades, and we've responded. And we don't always respond perfectly as a general institution of policing. And those are very challenging situations. And so I think most police leaders would agree that there needs to be better services. I can tell you the services specific to mental health have changed dramatically in just my 30-year career. When you look at 30 years, that's, only 3 decades, and that's really not a huge amount of time, but it has changed dramatically to where there was a full suite of services, and we just didn't respond to those calls, except on a rare, very rare occasion, all the way to today when those are one of our most frequent calls is responding to either a mental health issue or a call that has been spawned by some kind of a mental health crisis that somebody has had. So just wanted to add that. And then also with respect to your last comment about the challenges, this is absolutely a very challenging time. It's one thing to say we need to work to improve as a country and as an institution of policing and as a society, and I think everybody agrees with that. It's a wholly different thing to say that every police officer is a bad person and policing is bad, and that rhetoric is very difficult. It's very damaging, and it certainly adds to an already very demanding job. Now, thankfully, we work and serve in Sherwood, and we have an amazing community that really supports us. And we have an amazing city council that strongly supports us. And so that is a very unique situation that we have here. And we're very, very grateful for that level of support.
So, Chief, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So in these places where they're talking about defunding and channeling some of the money to other areas, for instance, beefing up mental health, won't police officers still need training to be able to deal with mental health issues? I mean, just because other places are getting the money doesn't mean the officers aren't still going to have to deal with it.
That's absolutely correct. And that's really the fallacy. It's not a light switch solution. So you don't create a system and then suddenly, boom, that's it. So it's going to take quite a while for those new systems and new programs to get in place and up and running efficiently and effectively. In the meantime, people are still going to call 911 and they're going to expect police officers to come because there's a problem. And so that is another challenge with the defunding issue, even in its best definition, is that you can't redirect resources from policing that are in many cases already inadequately funded as it is, and not necessarily in Sherwood. That's not what I'm suggesting, but certainly in a general sense, it's just not a good idea because those officers are still going to be needed. So, and when you start talking about eliminating special teams and special programs, the community is going to feel that, and it's unfortunate. But so you're correct.
Thank you, Chief. Vance, do you have anything that you would like to share tonight?
Well, probably a couple things. First, I want to compliment the chief on his response to Mike's answer. I thought that was very thoughtful and well explained, especially for folks that maybe don't work in that field. I actually have some bittersweet news because we decided to sell our house, and it sold very quickly. Fortunately, in Sherwood, houses sell very quickly. Unfortunately, the house that we found that we love is in Newburgh. So we own a business in Sherwood. I tried to see if I could stay on the police advisory board because I'm just brand new to this and I was really excited to participate, but it sounds like the Sherwood charter won't allow for that. So unfortunately, this will be my last meeting because I move in July. So that's about all I have for announcements. I am gonna miss Sherwood, and I'm going to miss the Sherwood Police Department specifically because I'm going to live out in the county where I know the services aren't going to be as good. Yamhill County. Yeah.
Gee, Vance, we were going to make you the new chair tonight too. Gee.
And I would have taken it.
Now you say that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Vance, I had the privilege of being in on your interview, and I know the chief has known you for a long time. But I just want to, good luck. We hate to lose you in Sherwood, but I'm sure that you're going to participate in wherever you go. So, thank you for your service and for what you do for all of us.
Oh, thank you. I love Sherwood. I'm going to miss it.
Hey, Vance, I was curious what business you own in Sherwood.
Well, I'm going to have to tell you that my wife is the one that does all the work there. I'm just on there as a co-owner, and she's in the same building as 503 in Cork. She's upstairs in one of the offices, and she does business consulting, predominantly for architects and engineers, but she does a little bit of bookkeeping and some, she kind of helps small businesses do all their books, basically,
Very
nice. And payroll and everything.
She's
I
my
just
office
like to hear
neighbor.
about our small businesses.
Yeah, I think I've seen you up there. I've been working part-time from her office since I'm in administration at my job. I've been working part-time from home, so all the administrators don't get sick at the same time and miss work because I get to work full-time through this whole thing. So,
All right.
Thank you, Vance.
thank you.
Megan, do you have anything to add tonight?
I don't.
Okay. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that over the last couple months since we've met, I've been seeing a lot of Sherwood's finest on patrol. And that's really feels good to know that they're out there and they're being seen. That's part of the reason why we felt so strongly about the recommendations on the police staffing study. And then the other thing, I'm also glad to see the radar trailers out and about helping change behavior around town. That's that's pretty cool too. So those are two things that, while I've been traveling back and forth to Wilsonville to work, I've been seeing. So.
And last but not least, I guess it's my turn, and I just want to thank you, Chief, and the entire force for what you do. Sherwood is just a fabulous place to live, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. And just kudos to you and your crew. And the other thing I would ask is, did our new hires graduate in May?
So thank you for your kind words. And no, they did not. Their academy class was suspended and they were sent home when the coronavirus really kind of took hold. They are now, however, back at the academy completing the last half of their training.
Okay. When will graduation be?
Oh, there's always one question too many.
August 8th.
Angie, August 8th. See? Good job, Captain Carlson. August 8th.
Okay. That's good to know, because there may be a couple of us that want to go down and witness that graduation.
Absolutely. They're open to the public.
Okay. We are now down to business.
Hey, Laurie, Ralph, you didn't call on Laurie for her comments.
Say what?
Me too.
Oh,
I have a comment.
I thought you had a shot, Laurie.
No, I didn't.
She did a follow-up question.
Okay. Go right ahead, Catherine.
So, I also appreciate seeing the radar trailers. I pass one fairly regularly on Handley, and it's a very nice reminder that it's really easy to pick up your speed when you're trying to go up that hill. And it's a nice little reminder that maybe we need to keep an eye on that lead foot. So I do appreciate its presence there. Also, the Sherwood Police Foundation's annual Boots and Bling Gala was canceled for this year, taking into consideration the way the coronavirus has impacted local businesses and families. So we did not have the live event, but we did do an online auction, which under the circumstances was successful. And we got feedback that said that it was appreciated. The idea that we continue to do that at least was, people were pleased that we had done that. So we were able to raise some money for the department this year still. And so we thank the community for that. And then the last thing, I don't know that it's necessarily a police related thing, but I have noticed an increase in animal activity. Today, in fact, I was walking through town and I was actually coming residential area along Pinehurst between Sunset and the trails. And there was definitely evidence that coyotes had been through the area. And they were not kind to the local pets. So keep an eye on your pets. Don't let them be running around loose without you nearby, because the coyotes are getting more bold, apparently. So my little PSA.
Okay. Thank you, Laurie.
Ralph,
Sorry.
can I follow up on Laurie's foundation auction? It was fun participating in the auction. Laurie, you're right. It worked. And I'm proud to announce that I'm going duck hunting with the chief and Matt Langer, and I got it for a steal. So compared to previous years in a live auction, but I'm very excited, and the party that I'm taking to go have already talked to you about going hunting. They're looking forward to it. So I'll have to go out and practice a little bit before. I don't want to be embarrass myself, but Tina and I enjoyed participating in the auction, Laurie.
Well, thank you for participating. We appreciate it.
I hope they let you use live ammo, Chris.
I want you to know, Chris, that your deal did not go unnoticed.
My deal? Oh, yes.
Well aware of the deal you got. So,
So be cookies and old coffee in the shack. Is that what I'm hearing?
well,
Kick in a little bit.
we'll heat the coffee up, but it'll be from the previous season.
No, no.
Okay, good to know.
Chris, will you make me duck confit?
Probably not.
It depends on how much practicing he does.
Oh. Sorry to digress.
I think that was a mallard. Okay. Let's move on to our next item of business, which is chair and vice chair selection effective July 1. So I've been the chair for a year, and Diane has been the vice chair for a year. And I took over from Chris. I think, Chris, you had this position for 2 years, did you not?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So while I'll just throw this out, I haven't talked to the chief or anybody, but if people are willing, I'd be more than happy to serve for another year. However, if there's somebody out there that has this burning desire to be the chair, I'd be happy to step aside and be a vice chair or just be a member of the committee. So,
Mike, you look like you have a burning desire.
No, actually, I was just going, oh, well. I love you.
however, if I am the chair for another year, then the caveat is it's my last year as chair. I'll stay on the committee, but so I would like to open it up for a conversation about chair and vice chair. Diane, I do not know how you feel. Hello, Diane.
Ralph, I'll chime in here. I think you've done a terrific job with you and Diane. And given the fact that you have served only 9 months with the 3 months we had off, you really need to complete your 1-year term.
Now, Bob.
So I nominate you to
changed the timing from the spring into the summer, so I really have served my term.
Are you making a motion, Bob? Because I'll second.
I hear a freight train coming down the line. Bob, you have the floor.
Looks like we lost Diane.
Yeah.
Well, I nominate you, Ralph, to be the chair for the next year.
I second.
Are there any other nominations? Feel free to speak up, Jeff.
Diane's back.
Okay, sorry, I lost connection. I need to make sure everybody else in the household is off all the Xboxes. But so I'm happy to stay, or I'm happy to let somebody else have the chance to do it as well. So that's sort of where I sit on it.
Well, I'm happy to let you guys stay there too.
Yeah.
So let's vote on it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
We have a motion. Now, did I hear a motion for Diane as well?
Probably not. I'll make the motion that you be renominated as the chair and Diane as the vice chair for 1 more year.
And I'll second.
Are you said you're okay with that? Diane is okay with that? Okay.
Okay, I think according to Roberts, we need to make them separate. So we have for me to remain as chair for the next year, and a second. Is there any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Now, we have a motion from Bob for Diane to be the vice chair. I think Chris also seconded that. Is there any further discussion on that?
No.
Okay. All those that are in favor of having Diane be our vice chair for the next year, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, Diane, congratulations.
I think those two motions had the quickest and loudest ayes of any I've ever heard.
Well, Mike, you're up. Okay, just be prepared. Now we have to have a traffic committee, safety committee update. And Chief, you want to bring that, or I have no idea where that's at.
I'd be glad to. I'd be glad to, Mr. Chair. So I will give a brief update from my perspective, and then would like Chris and Mike both to give any update or add to anything they would like to as well.
Okay.
Excuse me. So the Traffic Safety Committee met for the first time in May. They are, in terms of getting started back up after the virus pandemic, they're 1 month ahead of you. That was by design because as a new committee and with a lot of work to do, we felt like it was important to get a meeting in May under our belt. So we did that. So the group got to meet each other virtually. We got, I think, the bugs worked out of Microsoft Teams. They selected a chair and a vice chair of their committee. And then we basically had an educational session, talked to them about what the Muni Court said, responsibilities, all the fun stuff that you all got when you joined the Police Advisory Board. And then had a probably about an hour worth of education on traffic calming and what it was and what it wasn't and what it looked like. And so their second meeting is next week, Thursday evening, the 25th at 6 o'clock. They have selected the fourth Thursday of every month at 6 o'clock to be their regular standing meeting. So they will be meeting virtually again next week, and we will kind of pick up where we left off and move forward with taking a look at some forms for processing complaints and requests and so on and so forth. So that's basically it. Chris, Mike, anything to add?
Yeah, I found the meeting to be really interesting. To be quite honest, I was surprised at the amount of technical information that was presented that goes into traffic calming measures. Didn't realize that speed bumps were all that technical, but they really are. So I learned quite a bit. The group is very nice. Chris and I both dodged the bullet of being the chairman on that one as well. So that was good. So just looking forward to moving on and actually looking forward to hearing some of the complaints when they come in. And because if you guys are like me, I'm just absolutely convinced that the street in front of my house that's where all the speeders are. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that's not the case. So it's going to be interesting to see what the rest of the community feels about their areas.
And as Mike mentioned in his opening, Angie put together great resource binders for us, and those will be a great tool, a good reference tool for us as we go through and address the submissions by the citizens. And since I've been through several of the traffic safety things over the years being on this advisory board, it was a good refresh what we went through. And then the only other thing that I'd add, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but our chairman is a civil engineer. So that bodes well that we've got some expertise there, along with Bob Galati from the city on the nuts and bolts of traffic, which I think is a huge plus for the committee. So that's all I had to add.
So I have a question, if I can. You two gentlemen volunteered, kinda, of being the initial representatives from our group to that group. And that is supposed to, I think, terminate sometime in July. Is that correct?
That is very good excuse me, very good recollection. That was what we decided, and I had forgotten that until you just said that.
I didn't.
Obviously, things did not turn out the way they were originally thought they were going to and planned because of the pandemic. So what we envisioned to have been several months, I think 3 or 4 months worth of meetings. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. My computer is doing something weird, and sometimes my signal. So as a result of that, they've only had one meeting. So, but it was agreed that it would be a July to June assignment. So you should probably address that really quickly.
Well, that was the way I was headed, Chief. Would you two gentlemen consider continuing on in service till this time next year?
I definitely would, yes.
Okay.
So, Chief, can I make a motion, or do I just have to govern this thing?
No, you are entitled to make motions.
All right, I thought so. I make a motion that Chris and Mike continue as our liaison to the Traffic Safety Committee for the
I
next...
second.
Hello?
I second.
Oh, okay. For the next year. And who seconded that?
Megan.
Megan. All right. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Hearing no discussion, we'll put this to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you doing that. Which brings us...
It was only because you called us gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mama taught me right. Counselor News. Kim, good to see you. Be great to hear from you.
All right. Well, it's been a few kind of quieter months on council, as mainly the city's been focusing on COVID. But the staff's been very busy dealing with that. And we gave out some small business grants to help some of our small businesses. And that was within, I don't know, a week or two of COVID hitting. So that helped a lot of our small businesses. We originally had said we were going to give out 100,000, but we had so many requests that we ended up doubling that so that we could help more businesses. You've all seen probably what we've done to help some of our small businesses downtown to be able to expand their seating since they're so limited on the inside of their small restaurants. And that has helped. We haven't had any requests yet that I'm aware of businesses outside of Old Town, but we are definitely open to any small business that might have some recommendations that the city can accommodate within reason. So I think Bruce, our economic development manager, was going to be reaching out to other businesses to see if there was anything they needed from the city during this time. Let's see what else. Tuesday night, we had a council meeting. All of ours have also been virtual. We passed the budget for the upcoming year for 2021 in that included adding 2 police officers, I believe staggered, if I'm not mistaken, right, Chief? One halfway through the year?
Both of them September 1st, I think, is how
Okay.
we ended.
So somewhat staggered, anyways.
Yes.
So that was a good thing that got passed, and the budget passed unanimously by the budget committee, which is 14 people, 7 residents, 7 counselors, and then it passed by council on Tuesday night. Let's see. As for what's going on in the country today, just on the whole defunding issue, just council has received 1 email, only 1, requesting us to defund, police. We've received several emails from citizens saying how wonderful our police department is, how they're needed in town. Please don't defund them. Just totally supporting our police, like Chief says, that he definitely has a community that supports our department. So we received an email last night requesting that we don't defund the police and don't back to the whole don't let Washington County serve as, Sheriff's Department serve as. And it was happy to respond to that, saying not only are we not defunding the police, we just approved a budget to increase our police department to get on board with our staffing study. And Chief is right. He definitely has a council that fully supports the police department, and I think that is fantastic that he has that, so he doesn't have that fight as well, I guess. We also have received a couple emails from folks that are concerned about truck traffic on Sunset. And I think there's some educational component there, because back 6, 8, 9 months ago, we passed a truck route ordinance in the city, basically, rerouting truck routes away from our in-town streets and putting them out on 99, Baker, 12th and Sherwood and whatnot. But what residents aren't understanding is that ordinance also, it still allows trucks to go on the streets within the city if where they're going is within the city. They're not supposed to use Sunset to bypass Sherwood and head on out to wherever else. But they can use Sunset if they're going over to a development, say off of Brookman, and then they're going to take Timbrell and go over by Middleton. So, but there's some big trucks, and I think they're loud, and they probably appear that they've been speeding. And I know our officers have been out there and have done some speed tests, and during the times the officers are out there, they haven't been speeding. I think people a lot of times confuse loudness and big with, thinking people are speeding. So I appreciate that our officers took the time to go out there and check the speeds of these big trucks and whatnot. And we've been trying to educate those that are concerned about them going down Sunset. And that's it. That's my list. Any questions for me?
I have a couple comments.
Sure.
And a question. So I had a conversation with a woman who lives back there off of Timbrell, and it wasn't so much the speeding that she was talking about with those trucks, so much as the weight and the vibration that the trucks create on the way through the residence areas. She lost a mirror in her bathroom, fell off the wall. That she relates to the trucks going through the neighborhood. So that's where she was coming from.
Okay.
And I'm curious, the one email that you got from someone asking to defund the police department, was that from an actual Sherwood resident?
Yeah, it was actually what appears to be a recent graduate from Sherwood High School.
Okay. All right. And then what's going on with the Hampton Inn? Is that open? Is it not open?
I thought they were opening the middle of June. So if they're not open yet, I believe it's very soon.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I drive by that almost every day and thought.
I know. I thought I had heard like June 16th, or don't quote me on the date. So I think they're ready, just about ready.
Okay.
Kim, I have a question for you, and I don't know whether this is something you can address or not, but I've seen recently, big billboards and signs relating to opening up marijuana shops in Sherwood. Is this a measure that you anticipate coming up again in November?
Yeah, so the proponents of those that want to allow recreational sales of marijuana, they approached City Council twice now, requesting City Council overturn the ban ourselves. So just for a little bit of history, the citizens of Sherwood have voted that down twice as far as allowing recreational sales. So when they came to council shortly after COVID started, they sent us an email and they offered us $20,000 to help with any COVID situation if we would overturn the ban immediately, and they would give us 10% sales tax instead of 3% for the first year of the sales. So they were trying to generate some revenue for the city. Then City Council didn't act on their request at that point. Then they emailed us again, requesting us again that we overturn the ban because during COVID, they're going to have a hard time collecting signatures. And again, City Council didn't act on that either. We had a work session about 6 months ago, and the general feeling of City Council was that citizens have voted on this twice, and it should be up to the citizens to make that decision if they want us to allow the sales and get the tax money. Shouldn't be up to council to overturn the vote of people. So there is an approved petition initiative. It's been approved, and they are out collecting signatures. So as long as they get the required amount of signatures, which I think is a little over 1,300, then it will go on the November ballot. Long answer to your question, but there's a lot of history behind that.
Any other questions for Councilor Kim? Kim, congratulations on throwing your hat back in the ring, or keeping it in the ring. Okay, I wish you good luck.
Call me crazy.
I wish you good luck. Okay, we want to, and in either case, we want to thank you for your service with Police Advisory Board. It's been just a pleasure working with you.
Oh, thank you. I thoroughly enjoy my time on council.
And we'll continue to do that.
All right.
Okay. Hey, Captain John, are you still there? Hello?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to report in lieu of the chief, or with the chief, or after the chief?
About what?
Just kind of staff report. What's going on at the police department? How were the cookies? How were the muffins? And
I can personally tell you that the cookies and muffins were excellent. Yeah.
My wife thanks you.
They were very good. We thank you. Let's see, what else the chief didn't say. Fleet, we're getting a new detective car for the second detective. That should be here probably within a month. Nice. 2 patrol cars also. That was from last July with some issues with down in Detroit, and with COVID, it's been really delayed, but we should be getting those 2 new patrol cars shortly. Police Community Academy, if you guys didn't hear, we decided to cancel it this year because of everything else that's going on. Motor officer, Chad Brinkman, he decided that he no longer wants to ride the bike. There's some issues going on with him that he thinks it's better for him just to come off the bike. So we're looking at different options there. He's officially coming off at the end of July. I think that's about it.
Will he still do the bike rodeo
When's the bike rodeo?
in general?
Well, we have 2 motorcycles. One is pretty much dead. the one he's riding now is almost to the point where it's a hazard for him to drive. That was one consideration. So he's basically just driving it for special events this summer, which they've all pretty much been canceled. But he's going to stay on the bike until like July. But we're going to keep it till October, just for special events. But after that, it's pretty much done. It's on its last wheel, basically.
So we'll have 2 dead cycles.
Excuse me.
So we'll have
Well,
2
one is very,
cycles.
very old, and it's pretty much dead. It's over at Public Works, just waiting to be auctioned off. The one Chad's riding now is way up, like probably 20, 30,000 miles over the recommended mileage for a motorcycle, police motorcycle. So he's just basically riding it until the end of summer, and then we're going to auction those off.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Yep.
So, to answer Laurie's question, yes, we will continue the bike rodeo program. Either Chad can help do it dependent upon his schedule, or we'll have other officers that can help or take that over. But that's certainly a program that we will continue to do as requested. So,
Yeah, you don't need to be a motorcycle officer to help with that. We've had other officers help with that. So yeah, we'll continue to help with that.
okay. So a couple other things on the staff report. Captain Carlson will eventually be transitioning to be the main liaison to the Traffic Safety Committee. He'll be attending those meetings with me, and then eventually it'll just be him once the committee gets up and running. What else? So let me back up. So I'm trying to remember. Obviously, we haven't met in several months. So right after the pandemic started, the city initiated its emergency operations plan and opened and staffed the emergency operations center. I was City Manager Joe Gall appointed me as the incident commander to kind of oversee those operations. And so your city staff has been, as I think Councilor Young alluded to, functioning at a very, very high level, managing operations and determining priorities and services and so on throughout the time of the pandemic. And we have cut back on the number of meetings we have each week, but the staff is still meeting, the emergency operations team, addressing issues as they arise and responding to the various restrictions or levels or phases that we are in, either at the county level or the state level. So very, very, very proud of, frankly, of how the city and the team has responded to this. Certainly a pandemic is a very challenging time. Anytime you tell Oregonians who love the outdoors, that's part of the reason most of us probably live in Oregon, is because we enjoy the greenery and the space and the trees. And so anytime you tell a group like that they have to stay inside and you can't travel and you can't do all kinds of fun things, it's a huge challenge. Not to mention, first and foremost, all the health concerns and challenges. But in light of all that, I think your city team did a great job. You're not going to make everybody happy all the time, and certainly we didn't. But I think we made very good decisions and continue to, as I have said, operate at a very high level. So kudos to that entire group. Kudos to City Manager Joe Gall, who has been very, very active. And I can tell you from experience in that this has been very, very trying and a very busy time for anybody in city government. And I think I'm back. I think my signal blipped there for a second. So can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Fortunately, it tells me when it's blipping, so I can stop talking. But Anyway, so that's it on the pandemic response. We've already addressed the challenges that our country, state, and area are facing. And so we continue to work through those. We adjusted our activities and responses during the pandemic, and we're slowly getting back to normal in the policing world, but we're still not completely back to normal because we respond to the situation with regard to the virus. So our number one concern as a city and as a police department is to protect our employees and to protect the community from exposure both ways. So so that has impacted the way we do our job. It is important for all of you and the entire community to know that we have continued to be on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year as long as this will continue. So whenever anybody needs our service, officers are there and will respond if need be. Or otherwise they'll make a phone call if it does not require an immediate personal response. Again, that's to minimize exposure and contact. So we've done pretty well. Our staff has remained healthy, so very happy with that. Very proud of our officers. Continue to be amazed at the level and quality of work that they provide, and their ability to focus and stay on the job in the midst of very, very challenging times. I know some of you were joking earlier about wanting quiet, and then all of a sudden things broke loose, and I laughed because after a while we were well into the pandemic. I started telling people that it was truly one of the most challenging times that I had experienced in my career. And then the civil unrest and everything that we're experiencing now broke. And so I kind of feel like I should have kept my mouth shut because the challenges have just continued to continue and increase. So my only hope is that there are growing pains, that, we can all grow together on this and become better. So what else? Seemed like there's something else I was going to report out on, but the budget. Yeah. So thank you, Councilor Young. And as she reported, the budget has been approved. The budget process was very smooth, and very happy to report that the staffing plan, the commitment to the staffing plan continues, and we have those 2 new officers that will start sometime this fall. The recruitment is underway. We are beginning our recruitment looking for laterals only. And depending on how that goes, we will open up to recruit officers if need be. We seem to be getting a fair amount of interest from lateral police officers, which is that's not only a good sign, but it's indicative of the type of department that we have. People want to come to work here. So anyway, I think I will leave it at that and entertain any questions anybody might have.
I have one for you, Chief. I know that you have made efforts to reach out to a more diverse force, more diverse applicants. In light of everything that's going on now, are there any more efforts that you can make to try to tap into a broader base of diverse applicants for the lateral positions?
That's not only a good question, but also a bit of a challenge that we continue to face. And it's probably in some parts, well, let me rephrase that. For some departments, it may be more of a challenge than for others. And I don't feel like I have the answer to that yet. I know that I certainly am interested in racial and cultural diversity, but I'm also very interested in gender diversity. And we're underrepresented with female officers. And so we have had many conversations about how we try to recruit in those different areas. But it's also important to remember that once the recruitment is done and the actual hiring process begins. So what I mean by recruitment is the ads go out. We may try to get the ads in front of targeted groups of folks. But once that's done, and once the application period has closed, and we have, let's say, 100 applications, and we start through the actual process, it becomes very legally regimented at that point. The steps that must take place, the procedures and the scoring that must take place is very controlled by statute, both federal and state statute. And it's not a matter of identifying a specific need and giving an individual preference because of that and hiring that person over another person. Frankly, it's just not legal. And so we can very quickly get ourselves in a bind with respect to unfair labor practices, unfair hiring practices. The equal employment opportunity laws are there to protect everybody. And so once that gets underway, we have less latitude and ability and really just have to move forward with the applicants that we have. So the challenge is for us to try to get a very diverse group of people to apply for positions. And that has been where we have fallen short. If we take the responsibility, we've fallen short. If we don't take the responsibility, then we take a position of saying, well, whoever applies. And I'm not sure that's the right response. But at the same time, I'm not sure we have total control over who applies either. So it's a challenge and something that, like I said, we talk about. And unfortunately, I just don't know that I have the answer or that anybody else has the answer, frankly, that I've been aware of. Hopefully that answers your question.
Chief, I have a question. With the pandemic setting in, have you seen your calls, your incidents stay the same, increase, decline? Kind of across the board.
We saw a decline in calls, public demand calls. And what's interesting is that we saw a decline in certain kinds of activities as well. In other words, I was kind of wondering, were we going to see a spike in thefts? Were we going to see a spike in domestic disturbances, different things like that? And as it turned out, we didn't really see that many spikes. I think we saw maybe a slight increase here or there, but really nothing significant. But there was not a dramatic decrease either necessarily, but our calls were fewer. So it was really kind of an interesting set of data. But I think that the fact that everybody was locked inside their house probably may have eliminated some need for calls, but we certainly have had a lot of cars broken into the last couple months. And so there's definitely been a lot of nefarious activity going on after dark, and I would just encourage the public to keep their eyes open. You know, most people, well, let me rephrase that. I think there's a certain population of people that are night owls and stay up later, and so if you know anybody that likes to do that, we would ask that they kind of maybe take a peek around and look around outside before they go to bed, because these are folks that are walking up and down the street, looking into cars, checking door handles. They're not trying to be sneaky unless they hear a car coming, and then they hide. They walk up a driveway, and as they're walking up to the car, they literally, the light, motion sensor light comes on right by the camera. They literally look right up at the camera and then proceed to go to the car and check the handle. They don't have any care or concern at all. So they're very brazen. I don't think it'd be very hard to see them out and about. So we certainly need the public's help on that. So we put out a post here recently about see something, say something, and encourage folks to give us a call. So.
Thank you.
Oh, I had one other thing.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. It's Counselor Young. I forgot one thing, and actually, Chief can probably answer a question I have, but I didn't know if the Police Advisory Board knew that we had activated the speed enforcement, or activated or will be activating. I'm not sure if it's live yet. The speed enforcement camera going from 99 through Sunset towards Newburgh. So, you know, that one's never been activated, but we had council asked Chief to run some more reports through Red Flex to see what the activity was through there. And this time the reports seemed to indicate that we had a speed problem through there. So Chief, are those activated yet?
No, though that's relying upon the construction project that's
Okay.
taking place. And as far as I know, those cameras are still down until they get relocated and turned back on.
Okay. So I just want to let the Police Advisory Board know that that was coming forward.
Yep.
So, Chief, really good work with that Clancy's break-in. That was solved in what, less than 48 hours, something like that.
Yeah, it was. I was trying to think, it might have been less than 24, but anyway, it was certainly less than 48 hours, and that's a great example of it takes a village. So you have good patrol response, good on-scene work, good follow-up work by 2 detectives instead of just 1, which obviously means that they can go different directions and accomplish multiple things at the same time. You have partnerships with other police agencies, which the value of that cannot be stressed enough. I think sometimes it's lost, for a lot of people that, but it's just so critical that we maintain those partnerships, and we have those partnerships. And so when things like this happen, it gets communicated, we're able to get right on it and, follow up. And so it was good to be able to clear that case up fairly quickly.
Did we get all of them or just the 3? I only heard about 3.
John, I thought they
said 1 adult, 5 teens.
So do you remember?
So there was a total of 6 in the video.
Right.
We were able to identify 3 of the 6, but 3 of them are still outstanding. We got the 3 main people that went inside, but there were 3 that kind of lingered outside as lookouts. We haven't identified them yet.
Okay.
Thank you. Chief, I have one other thing. That's with Vance submitting his resignation and moving to Newburgh, do we need another member to replace him? Can
we go back through the applicants that we already interviewed?
Okay.
We had quite a few, and go to what our next choice was. Can we do that, Chief?
Honestly, I will need to double check the municipal code language because it's newer and see if it speaks of that and our newly established process. But I believe you're right. We will start with those. We can certainly, I think, ask for additional, but definitely we would start with those.
Okay.
We had some good candidates.
You see the problems
Yes.
you're causing, Vance?
Say what?
You see all the problems you're causing?
So
And if I may, before we end the staff, I didn't get a chance to confirm with Laurie if my response answered her question.
Yes. Which one?
The one about the hiring.
Yes. Yeah, it did.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's
for
all
Chief?
I have, Mr. Chair.
All righty. Angie, would you like-
Somebody
not-
might need to mute their mic.
Angie, do we have any citizen comments? People that have submitted appropriately?
No, we did not have any this time.
Okay, we will check that one off. And unless we have anything else to cover with our committee, then we can adjourn. Our next meeting should be July 16th, either in this format or if things change and we enter into a different phase. We will leave that up to the city fathers and Joe and Chief and all you guys that know what's going on.
And Mr. Chair, I'm going to be traveling on the 16th, but I should be able to do a virtual or even attend if you guys are meeting. I don't know if Angie, I can call in or whatever, but I'm out of town.
Okay.
Okay.
I will be able to make the next week's traffic safety, but I'm out of town on the 16th.
Okay.
I would, Mr. Chair, I would feel with some certainty that everybody should probably plan on meeting virtually next month.
Okay. Okay. And we'll allow Angie to set that up for us.
Yes, I will.
Okay. So, that said, is there anything else to come before our Police Advisory Board? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 It's great to see all of you. Thank you for your work. Okay.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye, Vance.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angie.
Good night. Thank you.